Hey guys, my name is Travis Albritton, head of content at Buzzsprout, and I am super excited to show you what's inside this box, because what I have here is the new Rode PodMic. I want to give a special thanks to our friends over at Rode for sending us this sample so we can test it out and you can hear for yourselves what it's like as a podcasting microphone. And what's really fantastic about this PodMic is because of the price point, it's going head to head with the current reigning champion for most recommended microphone for podcasters, the Audio-Technica ATR2100. So what we're gonna do in this video is show you the features of the PodMic compared to the 2100, let you get a sense of how they sound compared to each other without any kind of compression or messing with any of the audio recording settings, and then break down how much it actually costs to implement each microphone into your podcast setup, all right? And then at the end of this video, we'll let you know, depending on your situation, which microphone's gonna be better for you. So let's go ahead and unbox this sucker and see what's inside. So when you first open the box for the PodMic, you'll see a nice set of instructions on the very top that essentially just say, plug the microphone in and start talking. And then once you take off this little piece of foam here, you see the PodMic itself. It's a very simple microphone. It's really just designed to be a plug in and go microphone. So one of the first things that you'll notice when you pick up the PodMic is just how heavy it is. It's an all metal construction, which means it's gonna be extremely durable for you. And it just really reminds me of like a cast iron skillet, you know, something that was dropped in a smelt and then pulled out and all the microphone internals were then added in as an afterthought. That's kind of how it feels from a construction standpoint, especially when you compare it to the 2100. And now the 2100 is a solid little microphone. This thing will last for a while, but compared to the PodMic, it starts to feel kind of flimsy. You know, it's got this nice little plastic grill on the front. It just feels cheap compared to the PodMic. Not to say that it's not gonna work well for you. We use them here all the time in the recording studio, but compared to the PodMic, the 2100 really starts to feel more of like a plasticky kind of microphone. So as far as durability goes, and the quality materials, definitely gotta go with the PodMic. Now the other thing is that the PodMic comes with some features built into it that you do not get in the 2100. For one, it has an internal pop filter, so that means those plosives, those P's and those S's aren't going to hit the microphone as harshly. It's gonna do a good job of dispersing all that extra air that's coming out of your mouth, so it doesn't sound like you're just punching your listeners in the eardrum. The 2100 does not have an internal pop filter, and so you have to get either a foam cover or a pop filter to throw in front of it to help dissipate that air. And then also the PodMic has an internal shock mount. So if you have it set up on a stand on the table and you're typing on your keyboard or taking notes, those vibrations will not get picked up on the microphone. The 2100 does not have an internal shock mount. So what you have to do to get a similar feature set as the PodMic is pick up a shock mount. Something like this, something where it's going to suspend the microphone in midair using rubber bands or something similar. And so you actually put the ATR2100 inside of this shock mount and then mount this to your table stand or your boom arm in order to get the same functionality. So as far as features go, the PodMic definitely has a couple things that the 2100 does not, where you have to get some extra pieces of gear to be able to replicate the same feature set. So in that sense, the PodMic definitely comes out ahead in the versus the 2100. But let's go ahead and put both of these on a boom arm and see how they sound. And we're gonna start with the 2100. So right now you're listening to me talk into the ATR 2100. This is with all the default settings in GarageBand. I'm just simply running this through a Focusrite USB interface directly into my laptop. And so we've got the 2100 with the pop filter and the shock mount, all right? So if you're selling puppies behind the store, then those P's, those B's, those S's should get dispersed and not be so harsh because of the foam cover. And then this shock mount should, you know, if we're taking notes, if we're scratching on the table, if we're typing on our keyboard here, taking notes, this shock mount should dissipate a lot of that vibration. So even though this is physically attached to the table, none of those things should make it into the sound on the microphone. So now that you've had a chance to listen to the 2100, let's switch this up and put the PodMic on the boom arm and do the same test. So now I'm speaking into the Rode PodMic, and as you can see, it's just the microphone. You simply attach it to the boom arm and it functions in a very similar way to the 2100 with all that extra stuff we just had set up. And so it does have the internal pop filter. So again, if you're selling puppies behind the store, none of those P's, B's, or S's should sound super harsh coming into the microphone. Also, that internal shock mount is going to help you if you're taking notes, taking notes on your keyboard. You shouldn't hear anything super harsh or jarring in the microphone itself. So this is how the PodMic sounds without any compression, no altering any of the audio settings, exactly the same setup as the 2100. So now that we've covered the build quality, the features of both these microphones, and had an opportunity to actually listen to what they sound like, let's talk about the price. What is it actually gonna cost you to get each of these plugged in and working in your podcasting setup? And let's start with the PodMic. Now the PodMic itself retails for $99 US, but all you get is the microphone. So you will need to buy an additional stand and an XLR cable to use it. But when that's all said and done, the PodMic comes out to $136. Now with the 2100, in order to get the same features that you would see in the PodMic, you need to get a shock mount and a foam cover or pop filter. It does come with the stand, but as you can see, it's not very tall. So if you want to be able to get the microphone close to your mouth, you either have to put a bunch of stuff under it, which you could totally do, or go ahead and spring for an extra 30 bucks, get a microphone stand, and then you won't have to worry about it. And so without the additional stand, you can get the ATR2100 locked and loaded for $117. If you want to get the stand, just add $30 to that for a grand total of $147. So which microphone should you choose? Which one should you invest your hard-earned money into? Well, if you are a brand new podcaster, and if you are the only one that's recording, if you're doing a solo podcast or all of your interviews are gonna be done over the internet using Zoom or Zencaster or something like that, I recommend the 2100. Go ahead and get the 2100 because the 2100 has the ability to use USB. Whereas the PodMic is purely an XLR microphone, the 2100 does have XLR and USB. So you can plug this straight into your computer. You don't need all the extra gear that you're gonna have to get in order to use the XLR capabilities of the PodMic, and it functions very well. We use this mic all the time. We recommend it all the time. There's a reason we recommend it, because it's a great microphone. So if you're just starting out, go with the 2100. If, however, you already have the USB interface or a mixer or something like that, you're using XLR microphones in your podcast, and maybe you wanna scale up, maybe you need to get some additional microphones. If that is you, so essentially anyone who's not a brand new podcaster, go ahead and get the PodMic. It looks better, it's built with higher quality materials, it has features inside of it that really heighten and amplify the sound quality of the microphone, and it's just gonna last you a lot longer, and so you cannot go wrong with either of these. But if you're not a brand new podcaster, recommend go ahead and getting the PodMic. But I'm actually really curious which microphone you would purchase based on everything that we talked about and listening to the sound tests of each microphone. Just drop a comment below this video. Let me know which microphone you think sounded the best. I would love to know. Well, that's it for this video. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already to get more gear review videos like this one in the future. And as always, keep podcasting.